Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community and forum, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from fresh farm ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, whoops, this is not, there we go. Well, good morning. Oh, let's try that again. Well, good morning. And why am I all the way over here?
I don't know. You tell me.
Let's try that. When we go smaller, I'm in a different spot in the box. There we go. All right. Okay. Take 3. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to Season 3 and episode number, I'm going to guess, 219 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Crier Media Network. Yeah, there you go. I was waiting for
That's supposed to be a jazz hand.
Yeah, I was waiting.
I'm supposed to do 2 jazz hands, but I had a coffee cup in my hand. So.
But you see, I waited for your hand to be free before to slip in the yeah. I put in a little dramatic musical pause.
Yes.
You get it everything on this show. Yes, Kit Ellen, Free Flowing, Douglas Locks. Some of the kits out there said that they liked it when I had my hair down, and well, you know, I'm figuring if it works for PP. My wife said she likes me better with my glasses off. Then, hey, if you like me better with my hair down, let it flow.
Yeah.
Let it flow. Let it flow. All right. Today, recording day is TGIF. Friday.
Yes. Thank goodness.
Yes.
I'm exhausted.
Yes. Friday, September 29th, 2023. And it is a harvest moon. And yes, kids, I'm still in love with you on this harvest moon. I've been following the chat, kids. Just putting a little song in your head. And it's going to be a gorgeous day here at the Beaver Lodge. Again, perfect autumn day. Temperatures about 21, sun in the sky. Just fantastic. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, eh? And with me, as always, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. A good thank you, a big thank you goes to our founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. And, well, the most important thing we do every day is say good morning to you, Mr. Grizzly, and ask you, how's your mental health today? You mean
Good morning, Mr. Grizzly. Had to clear my throat. Sorry about that.
I'm Mr. Beaver.
So I mute.
I'm Mr. Beaver.
Yeah, Mr. Beaver. See, I'm not awake yet. I'm only on like my second cup of coffee, and it's barely at that, so I'm not awake yet. Another tossing turning night. Probably drank too much wine last night, and that definitely affected my sleep pattern. So I've no one to blame but myself for that. So that's okay. I'll endeavor to be better and do better and recover as the day goes on. Not that I'm not hungover, nothing like that. I'm just not fully awake yet. That's all.
Kids were wondering if you were having a bad hair day today.
Yeah, terrible hair day. It's all gone. And it's kind of chilly in here this morning, so because of the chill that I'm feeling here this morning, I decided to put a toque on and a sweater. But I do have my
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Because it's tomorrow, not today. But
yes.
yeah.
Well, yeah. Yep, absolutely. Get it in early. Today, kits and cubbies, your queen beaver is literally drinking tea.
Why tea? Why that's a change up?
Well, it's, we're spending a lot of time talking about this Anthony, the Speaker of the House, and everything that ensued. And there was something that was circulating because, the conservatives have their narrative. And again, my point seems to have been that if this is indeed the case, that this is bad enough on its own. That you don't need to embellish. And there's been so much embellishment, and clearly, PP wants the prime minister to personally wear this in some capacity, as yesterday in a question period where all the questions pretty much included the words personally responsible or a personal apology and as we explained, there's absolutely no reason for the prime minister to do that.
Well, I mean, I'm not gonna question the apology was necessary, but it's not a personal thing. He didn't do
Exactly. And he is a member of the House, so he is apologizing for what he did, which was the applauding. But again, the starting premise here is that nobody in that house, the MPs, the pages, the speaker, everyone in the gallery, everyone who was in there at that moment who applauded, none of them applauded or celebrated a Nazi. That has to be the starting point.
They thought they were applauding a war hero. They didn't know. And here's the thing. PP applauded as well.
Yes.
So where's his absolution?
And
he still hasn't made up for the Christine Anderson debacle. He's never made a public statement about it. We got a third-hand statement from Brian Lilly. So come on. Shit, Gibbon. I hate that guy so much.
I hear you.
It's just because he just stirs up shit all the time. That's all he ever does. He has no policy, no platform, no ideas. Justin Trudeau bad, I'll fix it. That's all he's got. That's all he's ever had. The man in 20 years in politics has never done a damn thing. The only legislation he ever tabled was the Fair Elections Act, which was the furthest thing from fair.
Disaster.
Right?
Ushered the government he was part of out the door.
Yes.
Is what it ended up doing. So here's the thing. We have the conservatives demanding an apology du jour for everything. And this time there's actually legitimate reason to demand one. So they got one. And because the conservatives live to be miserable and they're a bunch of joyless, negative people, of course, that apology wasn't good enough because the prime minister didn't personally apologize, but he apologized upon for the entire parliament and the entire house, of which he was a part of because he was there, so he did apologize for his clapping. All right. Now, Chantal Hébert made a very, 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 very good point. Like, while it is, and this is the point we're making, but we didn't say it as eloquently, while it is not the prime minister's personal responsibility, and we have clips to show you that, it is the prime minister's responsibility to clean up the mess.
Oh, yes.
On behalf of Canada.
Yes, it is. Yeah. He's got to clean it up.
All right. Distinction. Very, very big distinction. Right? The other thing that's going on here is that there seems to be, I'm being generous when I'm saying seems to be, a concerted effort by the Conservative Party of Canada and their minions to try to make this more than what it is. Now, this is horrible. I listened to the episode of Dean's show where Charles, said what he knew about it, and I set aside some clips, hopefully, that I'll be able to bring to the kits as the conversation goes. Right? As I'm learning more, right, you're starting to learn about this unit and what it did.
That's pretty bad, apparently, from what I understand. Yeah, really bad. Like the guy, and he was happy to be a member of that unit.
It would seem so.
Well, it's on his blog.
Yeah, but that
he was proud of
that's
it.
the thing. So,
he was enthusiastic. So it's like, dude, fuck you.
Yeah. So
I know it might sound terrible for a 98-year-old man for me to say that, but I'm sorry.
No.
You were a Nazi.
Yep.
You are a Nazi. Period.
So this is a clear case. It appears to be a complete clear case. Sorry, I have a fly here. Just we have all of this going on. And we have this party who's embellishing and adding and trying to make it worse and culminating, well, not culminating because who knows how much higher they want to take it, but so far culminating in PP making a statement such as like akin to Canada is going to wear this forever. We need to pump the brakes. This is horrible. There are a whole bunch of people for whom this triggered a whole bunch of stuff that is dark and messy and painful in the most deeply cutting way. But also, we must never attribute to malice, which there seems to be certain people in Canada who are supposed to be providing loyal representation of the people, are trying to pushing a narrative of deliberate malfeasance. It is stupidity. You never attribute to malice that which you can first attribute to stupidity. It is stupidity of a monumentously epic proportion, but it is stupidity nonetheless. And yes, the whole world is handing us spatulas to remove egg off our face for a while, but it is an accident. It is not intentional. It's embarrassing.
Oh, yes.
But we have a relationship with Ukraine such that if you see any of the interaction between these two men, they know.
Oh, yes.
They know this was an accident. Like, come on. It's embarrassing, but it's not something we're going to wear. Skip air quotes. Where?
The one thing I don't understand is how was this missed is what it boils down to.
And that
it's easy enough to find. And how was that missed?
That needs to be done. Listen, it's an error. Incompetence. There's a hole in the system. There was a blind spot. We've spotted it. I'm sure there's going to be some investigations. I'm sure there's going to be some changes of procedures to try to make sure that something like that doesn't happen again. Of course, no system is foolproof, but hey, you do your best and you moved on. There's absolutely no reason to be like taking this and then putting this in clips like for the next 5 years, like they're doing with blackface. Say, remember that time he
Yeah.
invited a Nazi? Like this, what shame? Oh, we're forever gonna the one is too many thing
Hmm.
where we didn't let that boat with all the Jewish people in during the war and it got turned back and
Hmm.
all those people got brought to a camp and not a single one of them survived. That's something we will wear forever, forever.
Oh, yes.
The fact that there was a slip in the protocol office of the speaker's office that led to something absolutely terribly embarrassing and humiliating happen is not something we are going to wear because there was no malice. Please tell me there was no malice.
Well,
But
and
there's
that question is
nothing.
still being
There
floated.
is
Was this a setup? Right? That
yes,
question is still being floated.
but right
Was
now
Rota set up?
but right now we have nothing that would indicate nothing in the public domain would indicate that that is the case. Everything is
Mm,
pointing to the fact that this was just dumbassery.
yes.
So,
I mean, it's an oversight on Rota's part to bring this man into the House of Commons to vet him when he didn't vet him.
mm, but again, how much vetting typically goes into inviting someone to sit in the speaker's gallery? It's probably a way lower level than it is
Still,
for
it's literally if you Google a man's name, it comes up immediately.
yeah,
That's
uh,
a 2-second Google search shows
again,
this. So he fucked up
yeah,
royally.
there's a fuck up, but that's you remember what I said on the first show?
No, I
Somebody
don't.
who
I
lives
can't remember what I said
some
yesterday.
somebody who lives in his riding, who happens to
Mhm.
be on the board of a hospital, is the
Yes.
son of this person, probably somebody who he connected with through networking, says, "Hey, Zelensky's coming. My dad's there. My dad's a fan." Like this, he's 90-year-old veteran. He fought in World War II. It was like, would you
Mhm,
like?
mhm.
Yeah, sure. Bring him in. We got to. And maybe that was all there was to it,
Oh, yeah, 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 but still.
which surprises a lot of people because, my
Yeah.
God, it's government with Zelensky like this. Yeah, but it was the speaker's office. When have we ever, 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 ever discussed protocol of the speaker's office? Ever.
Um, I don't know that it's ever been a issue before.
This is not something we track. It shouldn't be something we track. It's supposed to be seamless. That's why it's a story. Like this, and the other point that's being made is that this Zelensky visit was probably not like a normal state visit where you have like 3, 4, 5, 6 months to prepare. This one was probably, hey, you're passing through, yeah, okay, you're going to the UN
Uh,
thing, stop in, stop by, okay, let's just make that happen. So probably not everything was as meticulous as it needed to be on that end, or maybe that is standard operating procedure, the Speaker's Protocol Office, and it was just never an issue until now. Because nothing like this had ever happened until now, so there was no reason to suspect it would. Right? So, but I think so far we're pretty clear that there was nothing intentional. And I've been listening to interviews. They had an interview with the CEO of B'nai B'rith, and and throughout the entire thing, there was like absolutely nothing accusatory towards. It was like terrible, and yes, there should be apologies and all that kind of stuff. So
mm.
this effort by the conservatives to try to make this like this will be a national shame that we will wear forever, like slavery, or it was a terrible fuck up.
Well, I like this comment from Hugh. This is why pilots operate off checklists so they don't forget things. Because, yeah, it's
Yeah, they probably need a checklist.
I would suggest. When you say that, this person who was the son and is on a hospital board said, "Yeah, my dad's a big fan. He was a World War II veteran. He would love to come and sit in the gallery." Rhoda probably just went, "Yeah, no problem, okay," without a second thought of, "Should we look into this
If
first?"
there's any story,
And I'm not nobody gets a
no,
pass on
no, no,
this,
no,
by the
no,
way.
no, it's still sloppiness. But if there's any story you're gonna go to someone with, think about politics. Okay, let's talk some real politic here. Politicians
Right.
love wrapping themselves up in the flag, in the military, and especially in the veterans,
Oh, yeah.
regardless of party. Oh my God, 90-year-old veteran, World War II. Oh my God, he fought against yeah, sure. Now,
Yeah.
again, you don't know how the conversation went. It's like he's just a World War II veteran. Oh no, well, what was he? Oh yeah, he fought against the Russians in 1943. Oh well, then maybe you should that should have maybe been a hint. But if it's just sort of like, hey, my dad's 98. There's not very many Holocaust survivors anymore. Or people from that era,
He
people
contributed
or
to the Holocaust, though.
sorry, Holocaust survivors or Holocaust veterans from that era. You know, this would that be a great idea? And if it was a case that was all that went into it, yikes. Um,
Well, they should create a protocol. And
mm,
there probably is one, a protocol for anybody who brings in a guest. We're just gonna do a quick little social media check here, and ooh, yeah,
now
they can sit in the gallery, but we're not discussing that they're there,
exactly,
right?
exactly. So that's the general sort of overall context. Now,
And hear me out on this. The You should still have the right to sit in the gallery if you're a tax-paying, voting Canadian citizen. You should have the right to sit in the gallery, even when you say things we completely disagree with and find abhorrent and disgusting. But don't vet somebody when you haven't vetted them first. Don't vet them if you haven't vet them.
ooh.
I want a T-shirt.
All right, Mr. Grizzly, do you happen to have the clip ready?
Yeah, just bear with me for a second here. I'm running into some tech issues on my end.
All right, no worries. Um, so one of the main ways that the Conservative Party has been trying to make this stick to the Prime Minister personally is by saying that the PMO's office had some type of involvement with this. And on Power and Politics the other day, there was an interview with a man named Roy Norton, who's the former chief of protocol. So he would kind of know, wouldn't he? Uh,
Well, this is the other thing, right? This comment from PNC Bio. His son surely knew he was a Nazi. His dad seems proud of it.
yeah. Now that you mention that, that hospital board maybe has questions.
Yeah, because I mean, again, it's right there in plain language, right from the get-go. I mean, there's nothing to debate about it. It's you Google the man and he talks about it right away. So how does his son not know? So again,
Yum,
was Rota set up?
yummy, 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 yummy tea. Yeah. Well, that brings me back to the question I think of 2 days ago, because 3 days ago I was wondering, well, okay, it was suggested to you, Speaker Rhoda. Well, who suggested to you this? I don't think this has been confirmed, actually, that it was his son, but that seems to be what's in the press. Uh,
Right, right.
maybe it has been confirmed. I don't know if it has been confirmed. Um, but okay, his son says so. Okay. But now we know that the father was actually very public about what he did. Um, so, like you say, the son must have known. So my question of then, is there someone who recommended that the son do that? Because at first I thought, okay, well, it would be completely natural. And it still could be the case, actually. It's completely
Mhm.
natural that the son could have thought of this on his own and that there could have been connections and that they would have already met. An MP for riding with someone who's on a hospital board, that from a hospital, that riding is not hard to imagine that at some point they
Mhm.
would be in a meeting together, or they would have met at a social or something. So, but I mean, just because as well. You've met at a social doesn't mean the idea comes to you going, hey. So he could have been prompted. And if that's the case, then who did that?
Mhm.
But right now, there's nothing. If I put both, if I think, start with a starting premise, and I don't know if it's a 50-50 chance, but let's say there are two possibilities. So let's say it's a 50-50 chance. I have absolutely nothing on one hand or the other to help me decide, lean which way it might be more than the other, because nobody from the family has said anything.
No, they've not spoken to the press at all.
Which is probably smart.
Yeah, well, from a PR perspective, I'd say, yeah, keep your mouth shut until somebody figures something out.
Which is sort of what the Prime Minister did, while Mr. Rhoda kind of had to figure out that he had to resign.
Yeah, it took him a little bit too long to resign, though, honestly.
It did. It did.
I have the link ready to roll here if you like.
All right, so this is Roy Norton, the former Chief of Protocol for Canada. It's going to be about 6-7 minutes, but I'm just going to play the whole thing.
Okay, here we go.
Aligned veteran. This was not a personal apology, but some opposition leaders are saying it should be. So does the responsibility for this controversy actually lie with the Prime Minister? I'm joined now by an expert in government process, Canada's former Chief Officer of Protocol and an adjunct assistant professor at the University of Waterloo, Roy Norton. Mr. Norton, it's good to talk to you. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
You've seen this debate raging over who is responsible, and it may have some Canadians checking, their civics books. Walk us through this. What normally happens jurisdiction-wise when it comes to an invitation of guests to an address to Parliament?
Well, this event is happening in Parliament because the Speaker has agreed on behalf of parliamentarians to let it proceed. The Speaker, parliamentary protocol, who report to the two speakers, both the Speaker of the House and the Senate, would determine who is going to be invited. GAC, Global Affairs Canada, the government, in other words, would have been provided with the opportunity to identify a number, I don't know what the number was, of people who could be seated in the gallery. But fundamentally, the bulk of the people who are invited to come are invited by Parliament. Mm-hmm. And the process that the Speaker would go through is pretty opaque insofar as the government is concerned. He may have asked the opposition parties to identify names. He might have invited all parliamentarians to identify names. He certainly would have invited a number of people himself, including the gentleman in question, whose invitation has created all of this controversy. But that's on Parliament, right, and on behalf of Parliament. And frankly, the government would have had zero role in inviting Mr. Hunka, or for that matter, most of the people who sat in the gallery. And I think I can say with absolute confidence, as a chief of protocol, and these kinds of events took place when I was chief of protocol, if I had asked parliamentary protocol or the Speaker's personal staff or the Speaker himself for a list of who had been invited to come and sit in the seats in Parliament, I would have been told to take a hike.
Okay, that's interesting. So that's in terms of who gets invited, but then there's the level of vetting and security check that happens. So the Speaker has great latitude in terms of who he can invite, but this is being called a personal failure for the Prime Minister by the opposition because they say it's the apparatus of government that should do the security vetting. How did that work? How should that have worked?
Well, I don't think Parliament is willing to cede to the government, to the Prime Minister or to the bureaucracy, the right, the opportunity to vet people whom Parliament invites to come. At least they didn't then, and I don't believe that there have been any changes since. The process that the Speaker, that parliamentary protocol might go through to vet people is itself opaque. They may answer your questions if you ask what they do. They may or may not have access to databases of the RCMP. Certainly at Global Affairs Canada, we do. We have an embedded RCMP officer who presides over this kind of process. But the database in this particular case might not have yielded anything.
Right.
In as much as Mr. Hunka isn't somebody with a criminal record or whatever. But we, when I was there, and I believe this still pertains, would use search engines to check each name. And you folks in the media certainly found out enough about Mr. Hunka very quickly. And you did it not using RCMP databases. You used it. You used search engines, Google. We do that at Global Affairs. I don't know if the speaker, if parliamentary protocol does that with every prospective invitee, but they could.
Does that matter if they're a guest of this? Does that matter, sir? Sorry to interrupt you, but does it matter if they're a guest of the speaker? Would there be a different level of rigor applied if it's the speaker himself inviting a guest?
Yeah, perhaps. I'm prepared to surmise that the speaker's staff might not subject invitations from the speaker to the same level of scrutiny that they would require of names submitted by other parliamentarians. Mm-hmm. I don't know that, but the speaker is supreme in Parliament, and certainly from the point of view of his staff, I have a feeling that, I mean, bear in mind, this is a gentleman from the speaker's own riding, and he's invited to come and sit in, I believe, the speaker's gallery, as in the designated gallery for the speaker. So whether parliamentary protocol would question, would examine, would push back, I don't know. I assume that if they found something, if they undertook an examination and found something, in the case of this particular gentleman, they would have drawn that to the attention of the speaker, but they may not have done it because they may not be invited to do it.
Right. So it's interesting. There's all kinds of firewalls and silos because of the way Parliament operates in its interaction with government. And that seems pretty clear on a normal day. When it's someone like, I don't know, Joe Biden, who, you know, is a security threat, and President Zelensky, who we know there are bad actors in the world who would like to take out the leader of Ukraine, does any of that change, or does the parliamentary supremacy principle always apply no matter who is being invited and the security environment around that person?
Parliamentary supremacy principle always applies. There might be greater security from the point of view of people being allowed into the building. I mean, everybody who comes in right now has to go through, you know, airport type screening. But when President Biden came and spoke, I have a feeling that there might have been a more intense level. Maybe people were frisked. As to whether they were subjected to a more thorough vetting before presenting themselves at the building for entry with a copy of their invitation, I don't know. But I'm prepared to suspect that they weren't.
So the assertion, certainly, that we've seen play out in all of this, and with the Prime Minister speaking today, is Anthony Rota has taken full responsibility for this. The government argues they played no role in any of this. You find that credible and believable based on your experience? Do you think that is the be-all and the end-all of how this happened?
I find it 100% credible and believable based upon my experience with how things actually work. Whether they should work that way, whether they will work that way going forward is another question. This should provoke a fair bit of self-examination, you'd have to think. But there are two solitudes, or silos. You used the term silos. And the government has zero role in vetting people who sit in the galleries for an event like this one.
Well, I think you're dead right that these rules are going to get a hard look going forward on the security side. Roy Norton, former Chief Officer of Protocol for Canada, thanks so much for your time today.
My pleasure.
Okay, so for some more reaction to the Prime Minister's apology on behalf of Parliament, we've reached Michael Mostyn, the CEO.
Well, how about that?
Yeah.
8 minutes of pure civics. Does that make you happy, Mr.
Civics.
Grizzly?
Oh, you have no idea how happy that makes me.
We have a happy grizzly, kitties.
Yes, we do.
Absolutely no role. 100% believable. If anybody had ever asked for the opportunity to vet, I would have been told to go pound sand. It's pretty definitive. Now, here's the thing. They talked about silos, right?
Mm-hmm.
Silos, particularly, when you're in government, right? We talked about it again about the residence of the prime minister being on Rideau Hall at the moment, being on the cottage, right? You want to keep things very, very clearly defined with very clear firewalls, very clear separation, right? Like, for example, in the law or in accounting or in business or in politics, when you're not mixing line items, when you have, for example, your work as an MP and your work when you're campaigning, to keep those things in separate pots, your work as a party and your work as a government. You got to keep those things in separate pots. And, well, politics is a field that attracts a certain amount of lawyers, a pretty decent amount of lawyers who are
almost all lawyers, because it's the one walk of life where you can just bear with me for a second.
in and out.
The reason, well, yeah, that's you can go in and out as a lawyer, and you can take 6 years away from law, work as a politician, and come back and pick up right where you left off. Whereas somebody in IT like me, I leave for 5 or 6 years and I come back.
You're obsolete.
It's a whole new world completely, right?
Mhm.
That's why lawyers are in there.
Yep. But lawyers are the specialists at putting things in the boxes and making sure that are isolated, because legislatures and all, they write the rules and those rules are interpreted. So they know all about not taking something that's from box A and box B and then mixing them together to create a C and saying that that's a thing because they're in boxes for a reason. But you have
Indeed.
Skippy air quotes, loyal opposition that is doing just that. There is absolutely, from what this former chief of protocol is saying, there's absolutely no reason whatsoever. It would be sort of like telling people one person, two votes. It's never happened. You've never been told that. It would never enter your mind. You have never been told that. This guy has been in parliament for about 2 decades and has been in government. And he is trying to tell you, Canada, that on this particular event, the Prime Minister's office and the Prime Minister specifically had something to do with this.
He likes to rage farm. He likes to bullshit. He lies so damn often, he can't even remember what it was like to tell the truth.
Okay, but what I'm trying to explain here is that this one is, right? Oh, maybe he misinterpreted it. There is no possible way to misinterpret this. That the Prime Minister's office has a role in this is something that has never been said or taught or pushed in the narrative. This is completely new.
Well, and do you have any reason to believe, and I don't know if that's a thing or not, but do you have any reason to believe that anybody other than the Speaker knew this was going to take place? Because the Speaker controls the House, right, in that sense?
No, I don't see any reason why. There may have been some talk with the person who was ushering him in the box, literally like he's going to be there or something, but no, he doesn't have to. The Speaker is supreme. He doesn't have to vet what he's going to say to anyone.
He just says it.
Yeah. So you add this thing that nobody has said to something that has not even a 0.12% statistical chance of being true. It has a 0% chance of being true.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's pushing that. On this issue, why do... Here's the thing. When Skippy says Canada will wear this forever, why does he want us to wear it forever? Like it's a stain.
That's just what I don't get, because that's not good for Canada, right? Like, why?
Yeah,
Why? He hates this country. It's that
Why
simple.
would he want that to be our international reputation? Why is he not also on the, oh my God, this is freaking horrible. We are so really so sorry. And it's we're like, what can we do to make it up to you? Sorry, we really are.
Mm.
That would be the normal human response here.
Hmm.
Yes. And Kits, I hope I don't forget, but I've got this kicker for the end. Because Skippy's doing this whole high and mighty thing. And trust, I'm saving the best for last. This one. So we have the former chief of protocol. And then we have the CEO of B'nai B'rith, who's saying that he does feel like the prime minister made an apology. And he said in his interview, I'd like to just quote for a second because one line stood out for me. He said, every year there are fewer and fewer Holocaust survivors to share firsthand the horrors of what they experienced, and it is therefore incumbent upon us all to ensure that no one ever forgets what happened. Right? And they say they completely agree with that. And Kit PNC Bio in the chat has been making some comments that I think is going to make him very happy with what I'm going to say next, because he's been mentioning, sorry, I don't even know if it's he. I'm just assuming here. They have been assuming, I blame the weird inquiry we had that should be revisited. We talked about the Deschênes inquiry, right? Raise up the majority of Ukrainians that fought for the Allies. Obviously, it was a fuck up. Blame that inquiry. It practically says Ukrainian Nazis were okay. That needs to change. Well, the CEO of B'nai B'rith, they said that they didn't want an apology. That's fine. Other organizations asked for that, and that was fine, and he felt that one was given. But what they want, what he says, is that the organization wants to reopen the Holocaust archives used for the Deschênes Commission in this country. To answer the question, how did these Nazis get into Canada in the first place? And when they're talking about the disclosure, remember we said that there were some incomplete documents and documents that couldn't be accessed, and then the commission needed to be, was ended quickly, or there was a feeling that it needed to be ended quickly at the time, and therefore it didn't finish stuff when certain stuff did become available. He said, we'd like to see disclosure, as in disclosure period, not greater disclosure. We'd like to see all of the disclosure. The position is that the report still remains heavily redacted, because remember we mentioned that there were two parts and the second part has not been released, and that there are other Holocaust-related records which are not available to the public, and that Canada has made international commitments as a signatory to something called the Stockholm Declaration, which was finalized on the first Holocaust Memorial Day on the 27th of January 2000. Representatives from 46 governments around the world met in Stockholm to discuss Holocaust education, remembrance, and research. At the end of this meeting, all attendees committing to preserving the memory of those who had been murdered in the Holocaust. And then they signed this declaration, the Stockholm Declaration, which became the statement of commitment, which is still used as a basis for Holocaust Memorial Day activities. And then in January 2020, so 20 years later, as the world marked the 75th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz, ministers from the 34 countries of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance adopted an amended ministerial declaration to underline and renew the commitments made in the 2000 Stockholm Declaration. So he made a commitment to preserve these records and make them available. The United States did so in 1998. The European Union has already moved forward on that. So the representatives from B'nai B'rith are asking, so why not Canada? And why not choose this moment to open up? Right?
Yeah.
He's quoted as saying, "We can't learn the lessons of history. And by the way, there was a historic indifference to Nazis and alleged Nazi war criminals from different units in Canada. This particular division, the 14th Waffen SS Galician Division, and again, I don't believe anybody is attributing any criminality necessarily to Mr. Hunka." This man is being very, very generous. Now, this was an interview from a few days ago, so maybe his position on that one might have changed. But this guy is even willing to give Mr. Hunka personally
Hmm.
the benefit of the doubt at the time of this interview. And again, I don't believe anybody is attributing any criminality necessarily to Mr. Hunka. We don't know Mr. Hunka, but that's part of the challenge. That's part of the problem. This unit, though we know historically was a volunteer unit, as all SS units were, SS units swore fealty to Adolf Hitler, and the SS units swear allegiance to genocidal goals of the Nazis. So it's very reasonable to believe that any member of any SS unit anywhere participated in that. Yeah. Would be a great opportunity to open that up again, to answer some questions.
Indeed.
Yep. And gives a little bit of a history, saying that this is a pathway to begin moving forward because we clearly did not learn the lesson on how to deal with Nazis in this country. There was virtually nothing done. No justice, no deportations. Helmut Oberlander, who was the last known and majorly recognized Nazi in this country, died a peaceful death after ragging the puck through our judicial system for over 25 years. So we don't want to see that happen. And if we see that happening with Nazis, what about other war criminals, terrorists? We don't want Canada to be seen as a safe haven, but unfortunately, that is the experience, the Canadian experience with how we dealt with Nazis in this country, and we need to open up the records to learn and understand. So that's their position.
Interesting.
Again, I have no personal knowledge, but to me, this sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
It sounds reasonable until I get more new information and whatnot that might say that this is not, but I see no reason for which this is unreasonable. And I'd be very surprised that anyone would not welcome that.
Mm.
We'll see. We are going to have to choose a new speaker.
Well, the deputy's speaker is in the position now.
Yeah, the deputy speaker is Carol Hughes, who's actually from the NDP.
Mm-hmm.
Many people don't know that, but there's a speaker, and then there's a few others that are there to like rotate, every now and then, because not everybody is there every day. But the speaker is the head honcho. So she's there. Nobody knows if she's going to put her name on the ballot yet. But Greg Fergus from the Liberals is thinking of it. Also, Alex Mendez is thinking
I
of
like
it.
Greg.
Yeah, me too. I like Greg. I think both of them have pretty much said that they are. Chris D'Entremont, who's one of the others that take up speaker's duties when they need to, I guess, I don't know what you call it. It's not replacements, because I guess sometimes they just take breaks or they have constituent duties as well. But who sits instead hasn't declared whether or not they would like it. This is a secret ballot vote, so there's a little political gamemanship going on in the sense that how many candidates do the Liberals want to actually put up as a party, which could risk splitting the vote and allowing a speaker from another party to go forward. Because the speaker does make decisions, and if you happen to get a candidate who might be a little partisan and not willing to put that aside, that can make the House very difficult for the government. Those are the rules. Don't hate the player, don't hate the game, hate the players. In this case, but at this time, can the government afford to whip caucus for around just one candidate?
Well, Linda's comment here, I'd like to see a speaker who isn't Liberal just for appearances. Understandable, but it's all 338 members of Parliament vote on this.
Yeah.
It's not just one party. It's not the ruling party. It's everybody votes on it. So,
Yeah.
whoever puts their name on the ballot.
Yeah. There's only
It's
one.
those.
There's only one candidate who could fit that bill. Who would maybe get if government one day was willing, that had like more than like a 1-seat majority, was willing to, because they can spare an MP because they got the supply and confidence deal with the New Democrats. But if you were going to pick one from another party, if there was only one, it would probably be Elizabeth May.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure whether or not she's interested this time. She was interested at one point, and also because of her recent health issues, I don't know if she would have the health at the moment to take this on. But if the Liberals wanted to go that way, the only person I could see would probably be her,
Mm-hmm.
unless they're really happy with it, because the deputy speaker, who is from the NDP, has had time. I mean, it's been 2 years to show what she's like and how fair she is, and that, I mean, she could emerge as a consensus candidate as well if they wanted to go that way. I could see a case for that. So yeah, they're going to elect a speaker, and then the speaker, of course, after which, when they're elected, they will, as is custom, be dragged onto the floor. No, I don't want it.
Seeing one of the comments here from Jay Kirk, he says mandatory voting infringes on the right to choose. I would argue with that, and here's why. You can still go in and literally vote none of the above, spoil your ballot.
Yep.
But you're still casting a ballot. So your choice isn't taken away from you. They've had mandatory voting in Australia since, 1906 or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Because they had such a poor turnout, they said, okay, this is what we're going to do. And now they get something like 95% turnout, and those who don't vote, I don't know if they have to pay an additional tax, a poll tax. I'm not sure. But your choice isn't taken away from you. You just show up and you say, no, none of the above. Spoil your ballot. You have that option.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing. It's this spoiling your ballot for you lets you record your displeasure with the government. But by recording your displeasure with the government, it also puts it on the record, so they can't say, oh, well, they didn't vote because I guess they were fine with whoever it was. Rather than, I didn't vote because I didn't like anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, they still have the plausible deniability. They can still keep on doing the things the way that they're doing them because nobody has put any data. If all the people that are just really turned off from politics and that don't bother to vote, or, I mean, if you had a box none of the above, or anyone will do, right?
Yes.
I don't care, anyone, right? You tick them off, you would have that data. But the people that come in and like intentionally spoil their ballot, that's like, if all of a sudden there's a big uptick, it's like, oh, why is that? Like, let's say the next election, let's say the Manitoba election coming, because there's a whole bunch of people that don't like any of the options. They go and they spoil their ballot. And normally in an election in Manitoba, there's 52 spoiled ballots the whole election. And all of a sudden there are 3,000. That's going to become a news story. And then people will wonder and they'll ask. And then that creates an opportunity for a community group to start creating some pressure. Say, well, it's because we want some changes, and maybe you bring them about. But you got to signal your displeasure. I don't like any of them, so
Yeah.
Gives nobody any information. Just like I'm a big fan of mandatory voting myself, and because I think a lot of people also, once in the booth, well, if I really thought about it, yeah, we'll make a choice. Because all the people that are okay one way or the other, like this, well, if I really, really thought about it, would be one. They do have a preference. They're just okay. My life is not going to be any worse under the Conservatives than it is under the Liberals. So whatever
Mm-hmm.
it is. But in a box, in a booth, they probably would have a preference. Even if it's a 2% preference over one or the other, they would have one. Most
One
people.
would think.
Right. So you get a clear picture of where the nation's at. So I'm personally a fan of it. Mr. Grizzly, do we have the next cue set up?
Yes, I do.
All right. This is from an at issue from a few days ago. The first bit has a little bit of Andrew Coyne and Althea Raj, and then I'll have a second clip for you in a bit that has the kicker that I promised.
Okay. Oh, I have to include this in.
Bear a little bit, Althea. I think maybe some of the problems in having an independent speaker. It's wonderful for the functioning of Parliament, but it does mean that they have a lot of power, and power can result in making pretty big mistakes too.
Sure, that's an interpretation I had not heard before, I gotta say, Rosie. I don't think it's a problem with having an independent speaker. I mean, I think part of the problem is with all of this and the political response to this, and for this really I'm talking about the Conservatives, is people don't seem to understand how Parliament works, how our governance system works, and misinformation is being allowed to spread. The legislature and the executive are separate. The executive is accountable to the legislature. The speaker is chosen by a majority of members of Parliament through a secret ballot process. And frankly, you know, for all the Conservatives calling Anthony Rota a Liberal speaker, yes, he is a Liberal, but he doesn't caucus with the Liberals. And if it weren't for their support, he actually wouldn't even be in the chair. It would be another Liberal, Jeff Regan, who might still be Speaker, might still be a member of Parliament. I don't think it's a problem with having an independent speaker. I think with power comes responsibility, and someone did not do their job in the office of the independent speaker of the House of Commons, and you expect somebody at that level to be able to do the checks that are to ensure that the people that are not just your guest in the House of Commons, but if you're going to publicly recognize them, that they are who you think they are. And that was not done. And that's not the Prime Minister's fault, and that's not the Leader of the official opposition's fault. That's the fault of somebody in the Speaker's office, maybe the Speaker himself.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting the Speaker shouldn't be independent here. I'm just saying that part of it is that all these decisions were made by him. And so you're right, the responsibility was his, and as was the mistake. Aaron.
There you go. So very, very sort of a confirming take from Althea Raj, but I liked the way that she came in and it's like, that's an interesting interpretation that I haven't heard yet, Rosie. And are we ready with the next one, Mr. Grizzly?
Not just yet. Bear with me.
Okay.
Takes a minute or two to get this queued up.
Okay. So, sorry, elect Douglas or Paul as speaker. Paul would be a great speaker.
I would not put up with any garbage from a single one of them.
Oh, man.
I will have order. I will have order now.
Order.
Order.
I like that guy from the UK.
The UK. Yeah.
I love him. We will have order. Now here's the thing. So here's the kicker, right? With all these demands for apologies and taking personal responsibility and all of that, right? Especially the Conservatives. Right? I mean, Melissa Landsman threw herself on the pyre there. Just, oh my word. There was just, so much passion and emotion. That's the thing with her. You know how sometimes in a rape case, they'll get a female lawyer because they think that the horrible things that the lawyer has to do to the witness on the stand will probably be a little more palatable to the jury if it's coming from a woman. And then everybody turns around and says, how could you do that? You're terrible. Like this. It's the law. That's the context. Everybody has the right to a zealous defense. What's the excuse here? Seriously,
This
right?
statement from Mr. Cal, if I was in the gallery and I heard Skippy start to spew bullshit, I would start yelling that at the top of my lungs. I really would. It's like you're lying. You don't know. This is a lie. You're lying to the Canadian people in the House of Commons. This is unacceptable. I don't care about parliamentary privilege. It's unacceptable to lie to the Canadian public when you are in a position of power and authority. Unacceptable. Do you know anything about civics? Because if you do, you're lying to people right now. The way he lays this at the feet of blame of the Prime Minister is one such example amongst thousands.
Right. So, all this demanding of apologies. The Prime Minister must apologize. We must be responsible for what we do. The party of personal responsibility. Mr. Grizzly. Hit me.
It implores
Whoops.
Jews around the world
Whoops,
to reflect
sorry,
deep.
sorry.
That's not what you wanted?
No. The same.
You sent me
Sorry.
a different clip.
Sorry. The same power and politics when we had the ad issue one. Just that timestamp.
Okay, you sent me the wrong. You sent me the wrong clip.
Yes, I sent you. Yep. That's me. That's me. That's my bad.
Yes, it is.
Trust me, the payoff is good.
All right, if you say so. Just give me a minute here till I cue it up.
All right, because it's the sanctimony behind it. It was the same thing when that media group that was led by that guy that wrote that anti-Jewish stuff with regard to Palestine got some money and then they revoked the grant, and they were on that for like 2-3 weeks solid trying to make him wear that, and the Prime Minister had to apologize and all that kind of stuff. And they seem to particularly like to do that when it comes to the Jewish community, and I do not know why. The Conservatives, they seem to always be more particularly outraged.
I don't know. Maybe Melissa Landsman can answer that.
I'm not, in the Manitoba election last time, when Brian Pallister was basically making Wapkanu the entirety of his past, he had a female Métis member of his government deliver that message.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, he has a not only Jewish, but lesbian. Jewish and lesbian. There were pink triangles.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I guess, but she never takes offense on behalf of that. Never takes offense on behalf of that. Oh, no. So she's willing to be trotted out.
Well, you got to remember what she did before this. She was a lobbyist for private long-term care homes, right? So,
oh God,
she's a bit of a shit given.
All right, let's lay it on the kits. The final payoff. Apologize.
So talk a little bit about the politics of it, Andrew. On the one side, the Conservatives trying to stick it to the Prime Minister any way they could. And on the other side, what the Prime Minister and the government now has to do to try and, amend some of these fences, whether it was their fault or not, and it wasn't in this case.
Yeah, and I just will say, that this not every solution has to be found in the Prime Minister's office. Whoever becomes the next speaker can take steps and make those steps known to make sure this never happens again. Sure. That being said, I think there's stuff the Prime Minister could have done, not now, but days ago. I think, yes, it's true that the Conservatives were trying to pin all the blame on him. I think in his zeal, or the zeal of his people around him, not to have the blame attached to him, he missed an opportunity to get out in front of this, as I think he should have, and represent Canada on this. This wasn't just something that was afflicting the reputation of the Speaker or of Parliament, but of Canada. Canada. And the Prime Minister on day one could have and should have got out in front of this and said, this is a terrible thing that's happened. We are mortified. On the behalf of the people of Canada, I want to apologize. That doesn't mean that you're accepting blame for it. You can apologize for things that you didn't do yourself.
Althea.
I agree with Andrew, and I hope that he says that tomorrow as he's scheduled to be in the House of Commons, so we expect him to be in the House of Commons. I also think, frankly, all MPs could have done that, right? I mean, they were all responsible for saluting somebody that they're deeply ashamed to have honored. And I was shocked today that Pierre Poilievre said, no, he doesn't need to apologize. It's not up to him to apologize. You know, just because you are not responsible for having that individual in the chamber, you're responsible for your own actions. And I feel like we're living in this era where no one wants to take responsibility for political reasons. And I find that deeply troubling. The other thing I think Andrew touched on that I also find really troubling with Mr. Poilievre's criticism is he telling us that if he were Prime Minister, he would personally want to vet the independent Speaker of the House of Commons guests, that he believes that the Prime Minister's hand should go into the minister in charge or the president of the independent House of Commons and decide how the legislature should be doing their business. This is really deeply troubling, and I feel like in the heat of trying to pin partisan blame, we are misinforming the public rather than using this as an education opportunity.
Okay, Aaron, so what?
Boom.
Yeah.
Now here's the right? Boom.
Mm-hmm.
He, one of the 383 MPs in Parliament, he was also in the House of Commons on that day, he who also clapped, he doesn't feel he has anything for which to apologize. Huh.
Yeah, curious how that works.
And
No,
you know
I didn't. I did nothing wrong.
And you know what? I'm not great at doing memes, but if anybody out there is, the moment in the House of Commons where he was clapping for Zelensky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like he didn't give a damn. He's like, I have to do this because I'm here. Yeah.
More like, and I'm sure maybe, possibly, as the camera panned to focus on the person being honored and everybody rose, maybe there's a couple of seconds or a flash of how hard Skippy was applauding for Hunka. And side by side, it would probably be a very interesting commercial to see how strongly or enthusiastically he applauded for Zelensky versus how strongly he applauded for Mr. Hunka.
Funny, huh?
I haven't seen the clip of that yet. But
no,
so I don't know. But it would be very interesting to take a look. And yes, so if anybody in the Kit family is good at taking a little bit of video and putting it together, and see if it is the case that he clapped more enthusiastically for Mr. Hunka than he did for Mr. Zelensky.
I can put it together. I just don't have the time. I got to find the clips and then edit it and put it. I mean, I can do all that. I have the capability. I just don't have the time to do it. Is the problem?
Yeah. I don't know how, but if anybody does, please do put it together and do send it to us, because we would be happy to show it. I'm going to try and take a look if I have some time to see if I can find the clip or find some moments. But for some reason, given that conservatives really love to wrap themselves up in veterans, I have a feeling, I just don't know why, but we're going to be looking back at this one day and going, Pepperidge Farms remembers the time.
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Pepperidge Farms remembers the time that Skippy applauded much more enthusiastically for a Nazi than he did for President Zelensky. And I know that at the time, nobody thought that they were applauding for a Nazi, but given that Pippi keeps on saying that they did, I guess he did.
Where's that paper, boy? My newspaper.
Go buy yourself some ice cream. Wow. Okay. And while all of that is going on, we still have the reality undealt with of the lady who came from Germany to brunch
Mm-hmm.
and had such a good time that she came back.
Yeah.
That's just floating there.
See, to win points with that crowd, all you have to do is say, Trudeau bad, I'm better, and then they'll just eat it up. They won't hear a thing after that. Doesn't matter how much hateful bile you spill or spew. They just hear, Trudeau bad, yes, I'm going to. I read a tweet thread yesterday from somebody who posted on Twitter, and I've asked this question too. Why do you hate Justin Trudeau? Well, because that's not his policy. That his government didn't do that. Well, why do you hate him? Well, because I just hate him. Well, that doesn't make any sense. If you should have a reason. Like, I have a list of reasons to hate Pierre Poilievre for his terrible policy, for his underhanded, dirty scheming, for his ideas that do not make sense on paper, for the one piece of legislation he tabled, which is absolute garbage, for his hateful rhetoric. I can go on and on and on. I've not had anybody tell me why they hate Trudeau. Nobody's been able to tell me that. And I've asked that question time and time again. Somebody said, well, he said he was going to change the first past the post. And I go, yeah, do you know why that didn't happen? Well, because he didn't do it. No. The other parties couldn't decide on it. They refused to vote. So it died on the floor. What? Yeah, maybe if I get, you want to hate a politician for what they've done or not done or their policies. And that's fine. But please come to me with receipts. When you tell me why you hate him, tell me why. Don't just say, well, I hate him because what? Give me a legitimate reason. Well, he's not. No, there is no such thing as a perfect politician. That will never happen. I don't see eye to eye with any politician. There's a lot of issues that I have with multiple politicians because that's how life is. They're in positions of power and authority, and they hold their domain or dominion over you sometimes. And let's not get into the weeds on that one right now because we don't have time. You know what I'm going with that one, right? But the thing is this. If you tell me you dislike a politician, tell me why. Well, I just don't like him. Well, that's not a reason. Give me a reason. I can give you a reason why I don't like Pierre Poilievre. Because he lies to the Canadian public every day. He lies about the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. He lies about civics. He lies about provincial versus municipal versus federal responsibilities. He lays everything, including inflation, which is a global event, at the feet of the Prime Minister. So when inflation goes up, if he was Prime Minister, it wouldn't be his fault. It would be somebody else's fault, according to him. He wants to remove the gatekeepers, but look what happened in Calgary with a for-profit kitchen that fed bad food to children, many of whom will never fully recover from the E. coli outbreak. Removing gatekeepers is best. It's like I can give you a myriad of reasons why I hate that man. He's earned my disdain and my hatred. But please, if you hate Justin Trudeau, tell me why. I'm willing to listen. I shouldn't say nobody has. One person did come up with a legit thing, and it had to do with housing. And we did have a lot of back and forth. And in the end, he's like, well, I still don't like him because of that. And I'm like, no, that's a fair point. I said, because he has dropped the ball on it, said he was going to do this and didn't do it. And you're right, he didn't do it. I said, we do need to establish why the federal government no longer builds houses. We got out of doing that 30 years ago. It was downloaded to the provinces who downloaded it to municipalities, but they don't fund it enough. But you're right. One of his promises back in 2015 was he was going to see to it that affordable housing was built. And here we are, 8 years later, and they haven't moved 1 centimeter on that. So, yeah, you got a legitimate beef with him for that? Sure. But is that why you hate him? Well, he didn't get all the clean water advisories what he promised. You're right. He didn't get them all done. We did have a global pandemic, which was a big thing. There's a war in Ukraine during a global pandemic. We're supplying Ukraine with arms and money so that they can fight for their independent sovereignty. He had a lot on his plate, but he's got 75 or 78% of the drinking water advisories lifted.
Mm-hmm.
So the very first prime minister in the history of this nation to actually do something about it and follow through, make the promise and follow through. Has it been 100% completed? No, it hasn't. But, it's kind of been a rough few years.
Yeah, it has.
Right?
Definitely has. Now, online, this weird thing, people started to get their knickers up in a twist because, the liberals were speaking about abortion yesterday.
I saw
And,
that.
and then the conservatives, they always lose their minds when liberals talk about abortion because it's uncomfortable for them because they've got nothing to say on the issue. That's good. But number two, they love to nail themselves to crosses. So they're saying, okay, Prime Minister Trudeau's in trouble again. Oh, look at liberals talking about abortion. Oh, look at those liberals, those terrible liberals. Well, Mr. Grizzly, there might have been a reason yesterday for which the liberals were talking about abortion that had absolutely nothing to do with what happened in the House of Commons. Can you show the kids what that might be?
Yeah, just give me a sec here until I blow it up a little bit. And because, whoops, that's too much. I'll shrink it down a little bit. And I'll share this screen. And let's just hang on a second here. I'll share the screen and we'll start at the top and then scroll down a little bit, shall we? So Justin Trudeau tweeted, in Canada, abortions have been safe and the legal part of healthcare since 1988. We'll make sure that continues to be the case. We'll never put your right to choose up for debate, and we'll keep working to remove barriers and make abortion more accessible. David Jacobs responds with, every time Trudeau gets into trouble, he hides behind women's reproductive rights. No one is threatening those rights. Try finding something else to hide behind. Well, the follow-up is pretty good. It's like, oh, yeah. You really put your foot in your mouth on that one, David Jacobs, because you didn't even bother to look at the fact that, maybe there's another reason for this post. September 28th, International Safe Abortion Day. Accessible, legal, and safe abortion.
Oopsies.
Oopsies.
Like every time, and that thing I say when you can just substitute the words and use the same formula?
Oh, yeah.
Every time Trudeau gets into trouble, he hides behind women's reproductive rights. Every time a conservative gets into trouble, like say for claiming the PM had a meeting with someone he never met at his office is responsible for vetting those for whom it's not responsible for vetting, they whine about liberals' commitment to reproductive rights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's lazy. When you can do that, it's lazy. The tweet is bullshit. The tweet is bullshit. That's a great one. And then, then we have a heave a chipmunk because Mr. Singh was making something about affordable housing. And then she writes, are we a serious country or are we a social media game to you? And I'm like, okay. Mr. Singh's a bit of a grandstander and does social media in a certain way. Mm-hmm. But it's like, Miss Canada didn't plan for an ungrateful whiner. Miss Canada didn't plan for an ungrateful whiner choosing to be so embarrassed by Canada that she travels to Poland without her Canadian passport and launches an online look at me pity party to say how much Canada sucks, has thoughts on Canada being a social media game.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got a breaking story from yesterday that I didn't know about. That I'll put this on the screen because I don't think you knew about this because I certainly didn't, and I thank Tavi. Was it Tavi who sent this to me? Yes, Tavi G sent this to me, so thank you. This is well, Quebecer shot facing weapon charges after allegedly threatening Trudeau and Legault. This is from yesterday.
Whoa.
Quebec man who was shot by police Wednesday as they investigated threats against Premier Francois Legault and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is facing a weapons charge. The Provincial Prosecution Service said Thursday that Germain Lemay made a court appearance to face a charge of possession of a weapon for a dangerous purpose. Quebec's police watchdog is investigating the shooting, which left the suspect in hospital in stable condition. The agency known as the Bureau des Enquêtes Indépendants, BEI, says that shooting by a provincial police tactical team occurred during an attempted arrest early Wednesday at a home in Scottstown, Quebec, about 180 kilometers east of Montreal. According to the BEI, an officer who was looking through a window shot the suspect when he saw him point a gun toward the door where officers were entering. Montreal police confirmed late Wednesday that the suspect had allegedly made threats against Legault and Trudeau. Legault's office said in a statement Wednesday that it was aware. I'll take that off the screen. I can just continue to read it for you for now. Whoops, that's not it. Where did it go? There it is. Sorry. Legault's off. I'm losing my mind here. I don't know what just happened. My links are going all over the map. There we go.
Welcome to my
Let's try
world.
that again. Wow. Legault's office said in a statement Wednesday that it was aware of the situation, that all threats against elected officials are unacceptable and should be denounced. On Thursday, opposition parties in Quebec City said they were concerned with the growing number of threats against elected officials. Parti Québécois member Pascal Berube said politicians live in a dangerous world, adding he has twice filed police complaints in recent years for death threats against him and his spouse. Quebec Solidaire House leader Gabriel Nadeau-Dubois said he worries the current situation is just the beginning of a more serious trend. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
That I did not know anything about that until Tavi sent me that. So thank you, Tavi. I
Neither
appreciate
did I.
And we try and keep up with it as much as we can, but my goodness, there's just so much.
Jeez.
There's just so much that comes across the feed. So it's difficult to keep everything in check.
Wow. Okay. Let's see, where do I want to go with this? Because we haven't talked about Alberta in a little while. A whole bunch of kids got sick.
Yeah.
And we talked about it a bit. I think we were at over 250 kids that had gone to the hospital. I think one adult at least. Many of them got very ill, and some of them so much so that they had renal complications and had to be on dialysis. And things, it had been suspected that it was a central kitchen. That was the source of this type of E. coli, which is typically found in leafy greens or in beef. And then people started digging, and they found out that there were health inspections at this place that had found 2 live cockroaches, about 20 of them, I think, in traps. And that food that needed to be kept refrigerated were transported, I think, for greater than 90 minutes. I might be wrong, but definitely past the period of time where things can happen if they're not kept refrigerated. Well, that was pretty bad. Kitla M says, yes, over 90 minutes. Thank you so much. That was pretty bad on its own. And then, for some reason, this kicker. Well, first, the government of Manitoba, because we're talking about the election, I got Manitoba in my head. Alberta, Daniel Smith, gave all the families that were affected a $2,000 check, which is interesting.
A bribe?
it seems like, yes, here's some money for your troubles, and let's not talk about
Yeah.
it because
Hush money. Yeah.
well, I don't remember indemnization that quick with Walkerton nor with listeriosis. So this is new. Not saying that it doesn't come in handy, not saying that maybe this shouldn't be a standard operating procedure when something like this happens. Who knows? But it was new. And then on September 27th, CTV Calgary reports, City of Calgary issues charges against catering company operating without a business license.
Yeah. Yeah, I read that.
Fueling Minds, a catering company and school lunch delivery service provider, has been charged by the City of Calgary with serving food at childcare centers in Calgary without a food services business license. The charges were issued after it was discovered that Fueling Minds had been providing third-party food services to 5 Calgary childcare centers that were not owned by the company. The corporation and its 2 directors have each been charged under the business licensee bylaw for operating without a business license for a total of 12 charges. If convicted, they can face a total fine of amount of up to $120,000. City of Calgary business safety officers began investigating Fueling Minds once news broke of the E. coli outbreak, and it was shared that the company had been providing food services to 5 Calgary childcare centers owned by other operators. This additional service was outside of the scope of Fueling Minds' provincially licensed daycare business and required a City of Calgary business license. The city also received a complaint from a concerned member of the public via the city's 311 service. How do you miss that during an inspection?
I don't know.
And how do you... Oh, just to clarify, the kitchen did have a license for food prep, but only to prepare food for the daycares they were affiliated with. They then started to prepare food for an additional 5 daycares, which required a business license that they didn't get. That's an important clarification.
Mm.
But,
Well,
and
socialize the losses, privatize the profits. Just another case of well, we can save money this way and increase our margin if we cut back on doing the most basic of things when it comes to food handling.
Yeah.
Come on, people. This is not rocket surgery.
Yeah. So I have not been following Alberta news as much as I should. I don't know if there's been any additional fallout from this, but it would seem to me that when you add this to the whole children's Tylenol debacle, and then
which they still don't have, do they? Did they get it finally? Did they get it? I don't think they got
I'm
it.
not sure, but there was a whole bunch of other types of medication that they thought that they were going to have other provinces help get rid of it and somehow, or use or dispose. And it seems that other provinces haven't taken them up on it, so they're kind of stuck with it and have to dispose of it somehow. You sure she should be the one that's in charge of your child's health?
PNC Bios comment. Here at Freedom Kids, we rub raw chicken on the lettuce for that subtle poultry flavor. A little salmonella on toast, maybe?
COVID for kids.
Goodness.
COVID for kids. Come on and get your COVID for kids.
Oh, boy.
We'll make them sick and we'll do it quick. They haven't had a very strong track record with keeping kids healthy.
No, and I mean, I think this new CPP Alberta pension plan thing is trying to distract from the whole we poison children. Do you think? Maybe? We knew, well, according to our formula, we should get 54%. Wait a minute, you're not 54% of the country.
Look at this hand.
Yeah. I know.
Look, no,
Look
this
over
hand.
here. Look over here while I'm doing something evil
This hand.
over here. Yeah.
Oh, man. And then we have Rachel Thomas, who seems to have been the designated person from the CPC to take on the anti-woke crusade. who was in committee and talking about the decision from the Peel school region to remove thousands of books because they weren't "quote unquote" culturally relevant, which I believe was based on a Ontario Progressive Conservative Party order. Saying Canadians are done with woke censorship. It's like education is the provincial jurisdiction of competence stated in the division of powers. The Peel school region is in the province of Ontario. The government of the province of Ontario is conservative. Oh, that's why you're talking about the federal Liberals and the NDP. Will the Liberal NDP government stand up for free speech or stand by their censorship policies? It's not their policy. What's going on at the Peel region, school region, is not federal policy.
No.
Again, why is another conservative woman playing stupid in order to get the approval of some man?
I don't
know. Just like Sarah Fisher as well. It seems there was a campaign. It seems that maybe Skippy might be getting some heat for the way that he's been embellishing everything with Rhoda. So the end wokeism rallying cry was very, very prevalent online yesterday. There must have been something that happened yesterday that was just extra woke that provoked everybody to say, no, we need to end wokeism. Well, yesterday I think I made Kit Hugh a little proud because he said that I fried someone's brain.
You want me to put this on the screen, sir?
Absolutely.
Okay, here we go.
Let's do that.
So this is your response to Sarah Fisher.
Yes.
Knock, knock. Excuse me. If we end this woke nonsense, how do we simultaneously defend free speech? Isn't the woke nonsense you want to end also free speech? Stop censorship. End this woke nonsense. Defend free speech. You just fried her brain. Your brain on JCCF.
I just gotta be me?
Well,
I mean, your right to call wokeism nonsense is the exact same right I have to spew the thing that you call nonsense. You cannot stand for free speech and want to end wokeism at the same time.
It doesn't work that way.
You just can't. And again, this is the lawyer, the person who's supposed to be good at keeping things in boxes and oh no, sorry, it's not the lawyer. This is not the lawyer. Sorry, my mistake. No, this is the director of communications. Director of communications, who, for an entire political party that's supposed to want to serve 40 million Canadians, what did they have for us yesterday? Did they have for us policy? No. Did they have anything for us on affordability? No. Did they have anything for us on reconciliation because the 30th is coming up? No. What do they have? End wokeism. That was the message. That was the policy. That's all they got. That's what they got for you.
Yeah, that's it.
I don't, maybe, you know what? I keep on saying they can't sustain that for 2 years. And like, but I mean, from down south is what, on year 7? I mean, it's petering out, but he's still on year 7. He's still making enough to pay the legal bills. Let's put it that way.
Oh, yeah.
So I just keep on thinking of that movie Wall Street with Michael Douglas, who plays Gordon Gekko and goes, greed is good. Mm-hmm. It's like, this is like,
actually,
they're actually in there going.
That's a misquote. That's a misquote.
Okay.
He says greed, for want of a better term, is good.
Okay.
It's because it's misquoted all
Okay.
the time. That's all.
So, but for them people, it's grift, for want of a better term, is good. Grift is good.
Yeah.
Grift pays. There's lots of money in that disinformation industry.
Sarah Fisher's not very bright.
No, but maybe if the
And this wokeism.
if the if the disinformation
makes no
industry is going to be allowed to exist, can we have some regulation, please? And lots of it. This whole thing that we're just going to ignore it and let it's not going to peter itself out. We've got deep fakes coming.
Mhm.
And voice sampling.
Oh,
And
yes.
like, we need some rules, man.
Did you see one of the responses to Sarah Fisher and what you responded to with her? She's stop censorship, end this woke nonsense, defend free speech. Did you hear what you just said? And it's because it comes Rachel Thomas. Canadians are done with woke censorship. The Peel School region removed thousands of books because they weren't culturally relevant. Will the NDP Liberal government stand up for free speech or stand by their censorship policies? We don't have free speech. We have freedom of expression. Number one. Number two, from Ed the Sock. Hey, Sarah, I don't agree with book removal, but this is a provincial issue. And the school was complying with an order from the Provincial Ministry of Education as issued by a Conservative government in Queen's Park. How about you put some energy into defending truth and honesty?
Shh, conservatives, don't tell on conservative friends. Seriously. This is what it comes down to.
Oh, yeah. It's what it really is. It's what it boils down to.
Jeez. We're going to get some economic data today that might get us 5/6 of the way to confirming that we're
today.
It's the GDP numbers.
Okay.
For the quarter. Don't know if they're up already. Sometimes they are when we do the show, so I will check it. But in the second quarter, Canada had a slight, very, very slight contraction in GDP numbers of 0.2%. Technically, 2 consecutive quarters of economic contraction is a recession. Now, 0.2 is not very low. But if the numbers come out today that show that we are still below, one more month, which will be the next one, will be the end of the quarter. And if that makes 2 negative quarters, technically we will be in a recession. Don Desjardins, who's the chief economist with Deloitte Canada, says the Canadian economy will probably remain in negative territory until the end of this year, saying that the unemployment rate will probably rise to close to 6% as the full weight of the Bank of Canada's interest rates start seeping into the economy. The common, there's a word I'm looking for and it's escaping me, and I'm thinking in French and I need the word in English and it's not coming to me. The common belief is that Bank of Canada interest rates take about 18 months to 2 years to start working their way to the system. The first ones were in March of last year. So we are at 18 months right now in September. So the recession arriving right on time, just like they planned. Maybe. They say that it is going to be a mild one, be short and shallow. Unfortunately, I have no reason to believe that that's not the case, but pretty much almost every time, except for the second recession that Harper caused by having cut spending too quickly to try to balance the budget, I have not gone through a short and shallow recession yet, despite the number of times All those recessions were preceded by economists saying it's going to be a short and shallow recession. So perhaps there is nothing in the economic data to suggest that it wouldn't be the case, but I will believe that one when it lasts. I'm not going to be making financial decisions based on that, especially since we do have that real estate company in China that has
Evergrande.
Yeah, and that is going to cause a certain amount of ripples for a while. Well, it has. There's been a big correction in the stock market over the last few days.
What's their bankruptcy? 800 billion, I think, or something like
that.
Massive amount of money.
Massive. Yeah. So Desjardins says, we think it's going to be a weak economy. It's not going to feel tremendously great, but on the other hand, we don't think that it's going to be a very deep recession. And apparently even the most pessimistic forecasts show that Canada should get back into positive economic growth early next year. We'll see. Now, again, if it's shallow, then it won't be that felt, and that will be better than obviously the opposite. But the thing that's going to cause the problem is people renewing their mortgages and how much less disposable income they will have. And like I said,
all my income's been disposed of.
Yeah. Really. So
on silly things like rent, clothes, food, electricity, those silly things.
How frivolous.
I know it's frivolous spending when I have to buy a sweater or a coat for the winter.
We need to teach you to be more responsible with your money.
Pay my rent, put food on my table, pay for my phone bills, those things.
Yeah, I know.
I have something I want to put on the screen here, just as because I'm gonna lead somewhere with this, and it has to do with the provincial government in the province of Ontario.
Okay.
Let's start with the healthcare file. Current emergency department wait times: 14 hours and 16 minutes at CHEO, the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario. 32 patients waiting to see a physician. Please come in if your child needs urgent medical attention. The sickest patients are always treated first, that's triage, and you may not be seen in the order of arrival. These numbers show the patients currently waiting and do not predict how long your wait will be when the emergency department is busy. Patients with less urgent needs may have much longer wait times, 14 and a quarter hours.
Oh, my word.
So, yeah, that's a provincial responsibility. Remember, healthcare, that's a provincial responsibility.
So they got all that money and
have done nothing. Well, he underfunded healthcare by the tune of what, $1 billion or $2 billion or something like that. Here's the next thing I wanted to share with you. I don't know if you have an opportunity to see this, but it's still sticking with provincial politics and Doug Ford's government. I'm going to put this on the screen in a second. This is the leader of the New Democratic Party of province of Ontario, Merritt Stiles. I have a little bit of a crush on her because she's so kick-ass. Listen to this. This is really good. And the video has been edited to cut out parts that are not necessary for the narrative. So I didn't edit it. This is how it shows up. It's just to get it under 1 minute and 30 seconds. Hang on. Here we go. I just need to press play.
The former minister, Mr. Massoudi, and Mr. Truesdell all suspiciously told the Integrity Commissioner that their trip was in 2019, when it actually occurred months later. The Greenbelt speculator, Shakir Rahmatullah, someone this premier knows very well, was at the same hotel on both sets of dates. Rooms at the Wynn Las Vegas apparently go for more than $700 a night. The minister said he was only in Vegas once since being elected. He's now admitted it was twice. 3 different people giving the wrong date for the same trip. The former minister said he and the premier's staff only saw the Greenbelt speculator in the lobby of the hotel. Now it's reported that they got spa services at the same hotel at the same time. Speaker, I'm not raising these questions because I have any particular interest in the jet-setting lives of the premier's staff and friends. I'm raising them because of what they reveal about how this government makes decisions and who stands to gain from those decisions. This speculator's influence wasn't limited to the Greenbelt. His company was identified by the Auditor General as one of the top beneficiaries from this government's MZOs. Their Vegas story is not adding up. To the Premier, should the people of Ontario accept that government policy was being decided on a massage table in Vegas?
She's got a little Tom O'Kerr in her, a little prosecutor in chief.
And a little bit of Jack Layton, too, I think, to be honest with you. Let's, we just discussed the healthcare issue in this province and the underfunding by $2 billion. And now we're talking about the $8 billion land grab windfall for a bunch of corrupt cronies who just rob us blind and smile at us and say, but we're building houses, we're doing the right thing. Well, Doug has completely backed away from that because somebody somewhere told him, your government's going to crumble. People are going to go to jail for this.
Oh, yeah.
You are going to have to pay the price.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it boils down to.
Oh, yeah. And as Dave Wallace confirmed on our show the other day, my feeling is that Dougie's going to come in line because he likes his kneecaps. And, well,
he's pissed off too many people.
I had nothing to go on other than this is what seems true to me. And when Dave Wallace said, and I didn't even prompt him on that one, he just like let it out. It's like, oh, okay. So I guess I was going down the right path when I was thinking this. So,
well, and somebody said to me, well, this Dave Wallace fella, I don't know, he sounds like a crackpot. And I go, every single thing he has said has come to pass. It's all been proven. So,
yeah,
he has all the receipts too, right? So,
yeah. Last topic for today, Kits and Cups, is that since we're having some tea, New York judge has ruled that Donald Trump, in his New York civil lawsuit, the one brought by the Attorney General, Tish James, says that, well, his company deceived banks and insurers and others by massively over-evaluating his assets. That one has levels. In return, Trump received favorable financing and insurance rates. Now, of course, Ronald Rumprose is appealing the decision with what money? You'd think you're going to have to let a few of them go there. You can't swing at every pitch. The kitty's getting a little empty. You're not going to be able to grab it much longer. Donnie. The judge concluded that Trump did provide false financial statements to lenders and insurers for about roughly a decade. A one-man crime spree for a decade just in that field of crime. Because Lord knows he's been involved in a couple of other things too. All right.
Oh, have we lost Mr. Beaver? I think we've lost Mr. B. He's frozen. Okay, so we'll wait and see if he can come back here. I'm not sure what took place there. I have one more clip I want to air for you. I had something queued up just in case. You got to be prepared like a good Boy Scout. I was never in Boy Scouts. I was in Beavers for about 6 months or whatever the term was. I can't remember. And never wanted to go back because they promised us we'd go camping and canoeing, and they were going to learn how to make a lean-to, and we're going to do all this stuff. And all we ever did was do arts and crafts. And to this day, when somebody says arts and crafts, my skin crawls, because the arts and crafts that we did were gluing macaroni to meat trays and then painting them. We played basketball one time. Somebody broke a light, and that was the end of that. So we went right back to arts and crafts. So anyway, like a good Boy Scout should, I am prepared at all times. Mr. Beaver's powering out, it turns out. So we'll bid him adieu for the day. I have a clip here I want to show you, and, well, it kind of speaks for itself.
Question to the member would be, has his constituents from Timmins, James Bay talked about the affordability crisis, and how much has the food bank usage gone up under his watch?
Member for Timmins, James Bay.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, they come to Rage Farm in Timmins, and they refuse to meet with the Cree, the Ojibwe, the Algonquin people. They never will meet with the Indigenous people in the riding. They don't seem to think they count. But yes, let's talk affordability. What is the price for a Chachange Montrachet? Bottle of wine, $818. Les Passages de Co, $265 a bottle. Valo Amaran, $719 Canadian a bottle. That's what was drunk by 4 conservatives who were flown over to England by apparently the climate crisis crank Dan McTeague for one night. Talk about affordability, but here's the kicker. Those 4 conservatives then finished the night off with a $1,791 bottle of champagne. For them to talk about affordability when their leader lives in a 19-room mansion, when they're being flown around the world by cranks claiming that it's being paid, and they're spending $1,800 on champagne, to hell with them.
So Charlie Angus going for the jugular on that one, and here's why I played it, because we all remember how the Conservatives made hay out of the $6,000 hotel room that the Prime Minister stayed in for the Queen's funeral about a year ago, when it was a secure zone by MI5. They were told, this is the area you have to stay in, and then the RCMP selects the most secure place to stay in, but it was a $6,000 hotel room. But hypocrisy, thy name is Conservative Party of Canada. Just pathetic. All right, I'm going to wind it up because I'm obviously solo at the moment. I'll throw a couple of things on screen, like our coffee link. You can see on the QR code right above the Rode microphone sign. And then, of course, sponsored by the Ray Girl, it's the True North Eager Beaver Media QR code. You can scan that. It'll take you directly to our pod page where you can get all of the latest audio the minute it goes live. I've got 3 shows to post today, 4 actually, when I consider this one. I've been rather busy and haven't had a lot of time, but I will get on it later today when I have a break in my schedule. Post 4 new shows for the audio, and we've got some YouTube stuff for you. And right now, I'm hoping that you will subscribe to us on our YouTube page. If you're watching on Twitch or Twitter or Facebook, if you can surf on into the True North Eager Beaver Media YouTube page, you can click on that subscribe button, which should be right about there on the screen, I believe. And that would make you a subscriber to our YouTube channel. We really would appreciate the help. Let's not forget about our title sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, CanadianTarot.com, and the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. That's it for me for today, folks. Mr. Beaver is without power at the moment, so we'll wait and see if he can get his power back up. I will bid you adieu, and we'll see you Monday morning. Yeah, I think we can do a live Monday morning show. I'm just going through my head if we have to record something on Sunday or not. Either way, we'll be back on Monday. I do promise you that. Take care of yourselves. See you soon. Bye.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community and forum. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from fresh farm ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind.
Oh, hey, I have one more thing to show you on screen here before I head away for the weekend. Scott Moe, that horrible human being who wants to rob children of their rights to choose who they are. Well, just have a look at this. This is interesting. In July, Mo disclosed the names of several Saskatchewan Party candidates who have been convicted of drunk driving, including his own 1992 conviction. In total, 10% of all Saskatchewan Party candidates have been convicted of drunk driving. And let's not forget that Scott Moe killed a woman. Yeah. Not how I want to end the show, so let's end it on a happy note with my words of wisdom. Don't drink and drive. There's my words of wisdom. Take care, kids. See you soon. Bye.